welcome to another episode of Stoke Meter. I am stoked, I know it's a redundancy there, because we are interviewing Jim Harmer. Jim is largely the inspiration of why we even started this podcast. I came across some of Jim's videos, and he started a company called Income School, which I am now a member of, and I actually have been for the last couple of years, and it's helped quite a bit in a lot of different things. And now Jim is off and doing some other crazy things. You will find how entrepreneurial this guy is. And I have to thank him because I just popped in on him one day when you guys were recording something on BB guns, right?
Oh yeah, that's right.
Looking at me like, who is this guy? But more than patient with me, and a great conversation since then. But since that time, I mean, you've moved to St. George, right?
Yeah, that's right. I'm in St. George, Utah, and soaking up plenty of sun. 106 all week this week.
Well, Gary's in Tucson. I think
yeah,
okay, all right.
You were like 104 yesterday, and then Reese was talking earlier today. What is it like?
It was 43 degrees when I woke up this morning here in Idaho. Loving every minute of it. But now, one of the reasons you went down there in St. George, it was really nothing along the lines of what you typically have done, like with Income School and your other websites. It was something, it's a St. George private school. Did I get that right?
Yeah, that's right. It's called Trekker School. It's a private school that we're building down here. You know, my wife and I have just kind of seen what's going on in education right now, and we're not happy with it. And so we decided, you know what, we need a completely new take on what education is, K through 12 education. And so we're putting up a building now, and that's what we're spending our time on.
I can't believe it. You're putting up a building. And was that the primary reason that you left to go down there?
Well, we had family down here, and I like the sun.
And motorcycles. A lot of motorcycles.
Right. A lot of motorcycles down here.
Well, I'm just wondering too, you have a fantastic story of how you became an entrepreneur. I remember you were in law school, and I don't know if it was you were bored out of your mind. I'm going to put words in your mouth, but and you realized quickly, yeah, this isn't it, man. And then you had that knack for photography. I'm just wondering if you could tell the audience what happened. I mean, there you were, you arrived, law school. And I don't know if you were 2L or 3L at the time. And then you just started taking photographs and posting them. But would you mind delving into that story?
Yeah, you know, I should send this podcast to a couple friends of mine because nobody really knows what I do for work. In fact, I heard one time I walked into my parents' house and there was a visitor had come by and they were trying to describe what I did for work. And I realized, I don't think my parents even know really what I do. So I went to law school, and I enjoyed a lot about law school, as much as you can anyway. And while I was in law school, I was trying to just earn a little extra money for my family. And so I started a blog about photography, and it really took off, and millions of people were coming to it. After I worked on it for 6 months or a year, it was a different time back there, and it was a little bit easier to succeed online. And so a lot of people were coming to it. And so I started selling online photography classes, and like the first time I put up a class, I made $10,000 in 50 seconds. I opened the cart to start it, and 50 seconds later it was sold out. And me, as this poor little law student working for $7 an hour, I was like, you know. And so by the time I graduated law school, I started doing these photography courses monthly, and it was earning a lot more than I could have as an attorney. Wow. At least starting out. And so I rolled over in bed one night and I was like, honey, how would you feel about this? You know, this whole 3 years of law school thing that we've been sacrificing for. How about I become a blogger? And so that's what I did. And so I spent 6 years teaching photography, and I really wasn't this amazing photographer or anything. I was a hobbyist, but I, learn a lot as you're teaching it and doing it. And I just shared what I did know. And I taught photography courses, and I owned a series of conferences for photography. We did all around the world. I'd travel everywhere, taking photos and teaching workshops and doing online stuff. And that was awesome. Then I got a little stir crazy, and I thought, I'm going to start a blog about RVs. And so I created camperreport.com, and it started earning 10,000 a month. And then I started pontoonguide.com, and it started earning money. And I started just all these different websites. I owned the largest knife review website online, and we started pet websites and just all kinds of different things that I've done over the years. And I make it sound like they all succeeded. Plenty failed, and it was hard like any business. But I was able to build up a lot of different brands. And once they kind of got to a certain value, I sold them. And so that kind of just became my business. Then I started a company called Income School, where I taught other people how to do the same thing. And it grew into a pretty awesome company. And we got to 80 employees, and we've been able to help just thousands of people to earn their full-time living from doing it. And then I sold my interest in Income School to my business partner, Ricky. He's still running it. Great guy, great company. Anyway, so they're running it. And I took one of the small properties we had, a little YouTube channel called Backfire, that's about firearms. And I started running that. And then my wife and I said, okay, this is good, but I want something that's going to change the world. If this is going to be like the next part of our career, it needs to be bigger than a gun channel on YouTube. And so as we started looking at education and kind of really realizing what was happening in our kids' schools, we're just like, this is not going to do. This is not okay. And so we're starting our own school, and that's what the next 20 years is going to be about.
I love it. I know Gary and I have talked about a lot of things as far as education for kids, because we all have kids in school, and I'm blown away that here you are taking everything that you've learned, and all of a sudden you just went for it. And I'm wondering, what is it that helps you to go for it? I see so many people get caught up in the ideation of it, and it's a paralysis. They won't take the trigger. Matter of fact, I was just speaking with someone today about this. And it's about that action. But how did you get to the point where you just started taking action on stuff?
I don't know. I don't feel like that guy, honestly. I really don't. I don't feel like the kind of guy that takes huge risks and just keeps going after different things. I feel pretty like risk averse on everything. But I guess I just have different ideas, and I just get excited about them, and I see little ways that I could start to succeed and just keep working on them. But, I don't know. Yeah. Looking back, it makes it seem like I'm always going after some brand new thing, and it doesn't feel like that. It just feels like, you have an idea and you start going on it and see if you can get a little traction and see what happens with it,
Oh yeah.
Well, I think it's interesting that you had such success with your blogging so early on. There's a lot of competition today, but you were up against a different challenge back then because it really wasn't that well known. One of the things that I'm really interested about is, how does a law student with a kind of a lawyer mentality have such success in the blogging atmosphere? What would you attribute that to? Like, how did you fall into that kind of success? Because I don't want to minimize it. You didn't fall into it, but what did you do? What was about your way of approaching it that you were able to be successful?
The one thing that I have figured out with running so many different businesses is you really just have to figure out the one thing that you have to do a whole lot and not get distracted by other projects. And that's the biggest thing, is I see so many people that I've talked to about businesses, they're always talking about the wrong things, instead of the one that you really need to keep working on. I have a friend who's a plumber locally, and he's just really scratching and clawing, trying to build up his business. And, he's always talking about, well, maybe I can get this new machine that'd allow me to offer this new service. And he's kind of been coming for advice. And I keep telling him, like, no new machines, no new services. The real problem is nobody's calling your phone number when their faucet breaks. That's the problem. So you need to spend 90% of your time on marketing and 10% on everything else until you start the phone ringing. Then we can talk about a new service when we're trying to increase the revenue. But it's just so easy to get caught up in so many little things. And so if you can just really reduce it to what is the thing you need to do a lot of, then you'll be fine.
So in your very first blog, your photography blog, for you, what was that question?
It was just write every day, press publish every single day. And so when I sold Income School, which is, again, great company, and you guys should check it out. When I sold Income School, suddenly I went from a lot of employees and a lot of things going on to me looking around my office and be like, I don't have any income anymore. And so I kind of sat down with my wife and I was like, okay, we've done this a lot of times. How do we do this again? And it's like, okay, most important thing is I cannot leave this office until I press publish, whether it's a YouTube video or a podcast or whatever, but I have to press publish on something. And yeah, that's the thing.
And that really is what inspired me, because it's a lot harder than most people think to stick in there and hit that publish button, because so many, at least I remember when I was first starting out, I had so much doubt. I thought I had to edit everything when quite frankly, I always put music at the get-go, and at last part, I'm not going to worry about all the Photoshop and all that other good stuff until later. And it's amazing what that did to get the ball rolling. So to your point, that's that level of commitment, but also the focus that you brought to the table to me. And it's actually been something that I've been able to pass on to others that I've been helping as of late. So I got to thank you for that. And that's why I'm still an Income School person to this day. Of course, that's no plug or anything like that. Hint.
Yeah.
But the other thing that is really inspiring is watching how you get your kids involved in this. I see your kids that are with you in a number of different videos, whether that is reviewing a scope or riding a motorcycle and so on and so forth. How do you get the next generation enthused about the opportunities that are before them, and not only online, but even with all of the different things that are available to them?
Yeah, that's what I'm focused on now is helping the kids to get excited about those things. And I think the number one thing is they have to have leeway. As soon as parents start encouraging a certain behavior, you're guaranteeing it's never going to happen again. Right. And so with my own kids, like they love doing stuff. So my son just loves survival, everything. He's always watching survival videos on YouTube and stuff. It's just what he loves. It's what he wants to do. And so when he goes to public school, will they ever talk about that? No, not ever. He's going to go to math class. He's going to sit down. He's going to learn the exact same thing as everybody else in the class. The teacher's going to mark up the paper and tell him everything he's doing wrong. Then they're going to crumple up his work and literally throw it in the trash. So how's he going to feel at the end of the day? He's going to hate the work. He's going to hate that. Can you imagine going to that job? Yeah. And so when we're trying to teach our own kids, as we've done with homeschool and now at our own school, we take the kids and we say, okay, Ruger, you like survival. You need to go earn $1,000. How are you going to do it, buddy? And you need to come up with an idea to get $1,000. And so he decided he was going to make survival kits. So he goes to Walmart. He made his own Excel sheet. There's his math lesson where he can figure out how much he's spending on product and how much he's actually going to profit from it, all that kind of stuff, how much he would spend on shipping, all that kind of stuff. And then put it all together in a bundle. And he started just going door to door. Well, at the end of the first day, he made $600 and he's 13 years old. And so, how many years are they going to sit in math class and hate every instant of it? But then when he actually needs to learn Excel and figuring out those things, it wasn't a burden to learn those things. He was excited about it. He's got his own business going and he was doing something that he loved. And so, like, education should be the most exciting thing in these kids' lives. It should be the thing that's giving them self-confidence. Yeah. But instead, man, if you're watching teenagers today, they are destroyed with anxiety and depression. Mm-hmm. I mean, unheard of amounts of anxiety and depression. It was not like that when we were all kids. Yeah. It wasn't that a third of the kids are receiving treatment for mental health issues. It wasn't like that. Mm-hmm. And that is the reality today. And we need to turn around and look at what we're doing to them, because with the internet, they can see what's possible. They know there's cool stuff out there, and school is not it. And which is a shame, because school should be like the most fun playground for them to express themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. You bring up something.
They kind of tease us. They kind of tease us with kindergarten a little bit.
What, say that again, Gary?
Oh, he said they kind of tease us with kindergarten a little bit. They say, come on over and come eat some paste and go play. And then all of a sudden, just when you think you're going to have fun for the next 12 years, they slam you with a bunch of garbage.
That's right. Yeah.
And you bring up something on social media as well. I know that it's a beat over the head topic, right? This is the danger of this. But when in one of the other interviews I was talking, we were speaking with an individual named Yesa Maki, a presidential candidate for the country of Mali. And his big push is to bring schools to the masses over there. And he goes, the difference between here, my country and the States, is that kids will spend all day long at school because there are so many things that they're learning and they're applying being a key word. And then that they're sharing with each other in absence of the distractions or the interference that typically happens. Gary, correct me if I'm getting that wrong, but that was the gist of it. And so with the school that you're developing, it sounds more with the trades or something very hands-on-ish. Tell me, and again, if I'm off course, you can definitely correct me. But how has it been received, even though I know it's not fully going right now, how has it been received with the folks that you have shared those ideas with?
Yeah, we're just launching now, and we're already slammed with requests for people that want to franchise it. And in terms of parent interest, I mean, we filled up almost immediately of parents that are willing to pay. When you think about the public education system, it is a travesty what's happening. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Per pupil, the average across the nation is spending $15,000 per year per student. That's the average around the nation. So think about some math here. So school doesn't go 365. It doesn't go every day, right? It's only 180 days a year, right? So you think about this as a business. You say, hold on, this is a business that is only open, less than half of the days of the year. And so I need one teacher, and they don't pay teachers much. Let's call it $5,500 a month. Yeah. You're paying $5,500 a month for that teacher. There are 30 kids in the class, and each student is worth about $1,400 a month, if we're averaging out what the government is spending. You say, whoa, that's over $35,000 that's being spent on that classroom, and only $5,500 is going to the teacher. Yeah. Where's the money? Yeah. Where's the money? Because a private school, on average, nationwide average, is about $9,500 per year. So why is the government spending 15? And a private school is providing a very much higher level of education with very nice facilities, the best teachers you can get, all the computers and everything. So it makes you wonder, where's the money? Wow. And it's in bureaucracy is where it gets lost. And so, I get asked a lot about school choice and stuff. And I think, man, we've got to have school vouchers, but it's not because of my business, because parents are willing to pay $1,000 a month to get it. And I don't even know if I'd want to take the government's money because it would be attached with there would be strings attached to it. Right. Sure, yeah. But just for the parents to take their money from taxes and being able to use it in places that would just be a better education for their kids. Yeah. Can't we all get around that? Like, it's going to save taxpayers money. It's going to give parents choice. That sounds like a winner.
Yeah. I just did an estimation of the school that my kids go to before it split with those calculations. That's $37.5 million. Man.
Yeah. And it's not going to the teachers.
Oh my goodness. I think teachers might rebel after they hear about this, man. Jeez.
And so how cool would it be to just allow local teachers who are awesome, just go rent a business office and go teach your own class there, make it a business and take those vouchers, allow parents to spend less on that gives amazing businesses to these teachers, allows parents to choose. We argue so much over issues of gender and politics and whatever. This benefits everybody. Take your kids to a teacher you agree with.
Yeah.
You're almost decentralizing kind of the whole teaching paradigm, in a really disruptive manner. It's kind of interesting. I can't wait to see how this shakes out. And another thing I think that's super important that you talked about is if you want to bore me, tell me I'm going to go sit in an Excel class. Mm-hmm. I use Excel all the time, but if the goal is to learn Excel, whatever. But if I were a kid and learning Excel was part of learning how to do something I'm excited about, you know what I mean? I really think it's profound what you're doing as far as changing the paradigm on how you're teaching. I mean, it's huge.
Yeah, we call it purpose-driven education. That first, the kids need something that they're trying to accomplish. And I think for a lot of them, it's going to be starting their own business, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. But, whatever it is, if they're just love everything about French and France, then great, let's work with that. It doesn't even matter what their thing is that they're going after. There are so many, the education can happen in the pursuit of being an expert on that topic. Sometimes I hear people kind of pushing back saying like, doesn't this sound like kind of a China thing where they've got to choose their profession, at the age 10 and stuff? Has nothing to do with that. I don't care if midway through high school you switch to, I'm just sick of survival. Now I really like singing. Whatever's fine. I don't care. It's because it's not about that. It's not about the business that they're creating. It's not about survival. It's about them caring about what they learn. And an example of that. So my other son, who's 11 years old, came to me several months ago and he says, "Dad, I'm the second stupidest kid in my class." Which immediately begs the question, son, who's the first stupidest? And he wasn't. Actually, he's doing really well on his scores, but he felt like he wasn't very good at reading. And so I said, "Cole, I've written and published a lot of books on Amazon. I've done a lot of writing. And they've done pretty well. And so, you and me go on these awesome hunting adventures all around the world together. Why don't you and me sit down for 15 minutes a day, and we're going to write a young adult novel based on one of our hunts and take some liberties with what happened, right?" And so me and Cole start sitting down 15 minutes a day, and we start writing this book. And about 3 weeks later, he happened to be talking to my dad. We're at grandma and grandpa's house, and said, "Hey, what's your best subject in school?" What do you think he said? Reading and writing.
Reading and writing, yeah.
It had only been 3 weeks, and he felt he was terrible at it. And turns out, why did he think he was terrible at it? Because the teacher was having him read these classic books that are boring as snot to these kids. And so he disengages, he's not there, and then he gets behind and he does poorly on the test. He's a really good reader, I think, well above his grade average, but he was just getting crushed by boredom in the class. And so now, you know, we're almost done with the book, and we're going to wrap it up, put it up on Amazon. It doesn't cost anything. It's easy. And I can advertise it on my Backfire YouTube channel to hunters. Say, hey, if you guys have teenagers, send them this book. They can read. And they're like, what? This is kids. We're talking about guns and hunting, and there's prayer in the book and all kinds of dangerous values that people can read. Like, it's so cool once the kids actually care about what they're working on. But man, I could feed that kid 1,000 grammar worksheets and he's still not going to feel like he's good at it. He's just going to hate it more.
Yeah, that application is huge. Go ahead, Jerry. No, go for it. I'll follow up.
I look back at my when I was in high school, my favorite teacher was Mrs. Smith, and she taught English of all things. Whose favorite teacher or favorite class is English? It wasn't mine. But one thing that she did, and it ties into exactly what you're talking about, is we would have to write for 15 minutes a day. And she didn't give us a topic. She didn't give us any guidelines. We just had to write 15 minutes a day. There was a minimum page count, that type of thing. And at first, I hated it. I'm like, I don't know what to write about. I'm not a good writer, But after a while, you do that for so many days. One thing that I realize is you get creative. Like, you start stretching your mind. You start like, okay, I want to write about stuff that I'm interested in. You know what I mean? And so now I look back and I'm super grateful. Thank you, Mrs. Smith, for making us do what I thought at the time was a horrible assignment. But it kind of ties into what you're saying. You know what I mean? Like, give them, it's not the task at hand, it's what's the meaning behind it and what are we trying to accomplish? And it sounds like you're kind of attacking that head on.
Yep. And on top of that, you know who Nate Ogden is, right? He was up here he does the he's in a wheelchair and he does good grief, why can't I think of the name of the organization? Anyway, they go all over the world with bringing wheelchairs to people. And his wife, Heather, was talking to me, and the kids are now doing calculations of how much something costs. And they're making those calculations very quick. They don't need a math book or anything like that. They know all of the basics of arithmetic, but then they apply it immediately. If we spend this much money, then that means it'll take this much money from our ability to help that person. And it's interesting to see how the application to something that is meaningful, as you said, to them, has really enhanced their education overall. And so it does sound like this is something that you're doing and really promoting in such a way that resonates. Well, you didn't hardly have to do any promotion. It's already resonating. And if you're already getting hit up for all the franchises, man, that application, that ability to learn through action in something you love. Wow. Well, I know that's a redundant statement, but wow.
Yeah, it's huge. And the other area that will just hopefully take time for it to change in culture is, let's talk about what we're actually learning in school. Mm-hmm. Because I took a standardized math test, trying to figure out which tests we could use with our students. It put me at an elementary school level in math. I'm a multimillionaire and I have a doctorate, but it says that I'm not ready to pass the 6th grade yet. It's absurd. It's crazy. The stuff that we're even teaching in schools, the very topics are stupid. Let me ask you, what's the last time you needed to use pen and paper long division? No, we either ask Siri or Excel, right? And so should we know basically what it is, how to work with it and stuff like that? Yeah, absolutely. But why the heck are we taking fifth graders and making them feel like they're stupid and destroying their self-worth because they don't know how to do something that frankly they'll never need? Good trick, right? And so here's what I think. I think there is value in education itself. There's value in just gaining knowledge. It will expand your brain. It's valuable. There's no education that's useless. Totally believe that, 100%. However, if there's something that is so divorced from what we need from people in society now, we can stretch brains by working on things that would actually be valuable. If you've learned another language, you know how much that stretches your brain, right? And so let's have them learn another language. That's actually valuable. If you've learned coding, that will stretch your brain. So let's do that because that's actually valuable. Right. But just understanding how to do long division by hand, it's just not a skill the market needs anymore. It was needed in the 1970s when there was a space race and there were no computers. Yeah. That was a good time to be teaching it, but it's just stayed. We just haven't evolved to what we're teaching kids. And it's not just little kids too. As somebody who hired a lot of current and former and recent college students, I mean, a lot of them we hired in income school. You come out of college pretty helpless. You really do. And it was not the hard skills that we're missing. It was the soft skills. It was a student who spent 4 years in marketing. And then I have a book launch coming. I go to that guy and I say, hey, I need you to make a marketing plan. And January 1st, we're going to launch it. See ya. He's in charge of it. Then I come back 2 weeks before the book launches, see the marketing plan. And the marketing plan is like, let's buy $10,000 in Facebook ads. Let's make a video on the YouTube channel. And I was like, well, how much is that Facebook ad going to cost? What's the ad? Where's the creative for it? Are we actually going to get an ROI if we're paying 60 cents a click to this and then only 1% buys? Is there an ROI to that? What audience do we send it to? Is there a tracking pixel already on the website? All these the details, and great people, like the most capable people we could find. Right. But a recent college student does not have those skills. They don't know how to actually put something in practice in the real world because of how education happens. At best, they had a marketing teacher who had them create some fake campaign and turn it in. That's it. They've never actually done the real thing where you're not graded on how pretty is your creative. Did you check all the boxes that I was looking for? Actually, we need something to the next level. We need something that actually makes money. And I don't care how many hours you put into it. And I don't care if you checked all the check boxes. If it doesn't make money, I don't care. Right. But they've never, ever done that before. And that is a shame.
Yeah. My goodness. I wish my kids were down there.
Well, you're lucky. In Boise, there's a school called Heroes Academy that is fantastic. Our kids went there when we were in Boise, and it's fantastic.
Wow. I will definitely have to be checking that out. With everything that's going on, where do you think, or where do you see the trends going toward in education? Now, this is one side of it, but what are some of the old habits or old ways of thinking do you have to burst through? I'm sure that you're seeing this all the time of, I don't know if I could put them in, Joey into another school that's kind of different. How do you address those different concerns?
Yeah, there are a lot of them when you look at something very different. Really, a huge problem right now is the standardized testing before college.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people right now are saying, am I going to want to send my kid to college? I'm not even sure about that. Which pros and cons too. I still think we need a lot of college. I think college needs to get better, but I think we need it.
Yeah.
But the problem is those standardized tests force a lot of the K through 12 years to be a certain thing.
Yeah.
You know, they're not testing the kind of values that really would be a lot more valuable. And so that is a big hurdle. The good news is there is a growing trend in colleges that no longer are looking at standardized scores. University of Utah, I believe, is one here locally. Several colleges have started to announce, hey, we don't look at standardized scores anymore. Man, that is fabulous, because that takes away the power from this legacy education system that I think all of us at this point, we know, like, hey, education system's kind of messed up, but there are a few problems like that that are keeping it from being changed. I think another problem is the teachers union. The teachers union has incredible power over what happens at school. I mean, ask any parent, and 99 out of 100 of them will complain to you about the yearly schedule in schools, right? It's so random. My kids, we're not off this Tuesday. We have a half day Friday. It's so random. That schedule is not about student achievement and performance. It has nothing to do with it. It has to do with the government saying we're not going to be in school 1 minute longer than we have to be because we won't pay for it. And it has the teachers union forcing long summers. So teachers want to work 2 jobs and all kinds of different days off for this and that. It has nothing to do with the kids. It's not about the best schedule for the kids. And that dramatically, it hurts things. It hurts the kids. I remember when I was in school coming back after a long summer, I'm like, shoot, I don't even remember how to have it. You know? I've been watching Saturday morning cartoons for so long. I have no clue. But we all see the problems and nobody's changing it.
Yeah, man. Wait, you're nailing me hard, because I was looking at my daughter. She's prepping for college right now, and she got into all of them. But I'll never forget the undue stress when something required an SAT or an ACT. And the school that she ultimately decided on was one that didn't look at it at all. And it's a very competitive school to get into. But it was quite a relief, and it allowed her to be her in a way that the other schools might not have. As dorky as that might sound, just to see the demeanor going into something that it was all about her was pretty unique.
Man, a 5-minute interview with somebody is going to tell you a lot more about that person's capacity to do something great in the world than how do you understand logarithms, right? It's just, is that really our measurement of, are you up to the standard for this college, the kind of person that's going to change the world? I don't think so.
What's interesting too is, you look at a typical high school student right now that is college bound. That's also another issue, is those that aren't, but we can talk about that separate. But you look at, they're asking for all these extracurriculars, and they're asking for all this service time. And there's like, man, when I was in high school, I was just doing whatever, I was trying different stuff out, and I was doing some sports because I wanted to do sports. It wasn't because I was trying to get into a college, you know what I mean? And I think that's where what you're doing, if it's more focused and applies to real world skills, you can take some of that other pressure off the students as well. Do you know what I mean? Are you seeing that at all, or is that part of your focus?
Yeah, I think that's super critical. A friend of mine has his son is in 7th grade, wanted to join the football team. Football team sent a letter home to the parents, and it was a 12-page contract.
Oh my gosh.
between the parents and the school. And they had to say that they would not take their child boating or skiing or play in any other sports other than that sport so that they don't get injured. If they miss more than one practice the entire season, they're booted off the team. And I'm just like, what the crap? I'm sorry. I'm the parent. I'm the parent, not you. And so if I want to take my kid boating, we're going boating, man.
Yeah.
You don't get to pick that. You're the government. You don't get to pick what activities I do with my kid. And so parental rights and education have been trampled. I mean, trampled. And, without wading into the political areas of gender questions, I mean, if you look at polls of how parents feel about a school's ability to provide gender affirming treatment to a student over, not just in absence of a parent's objection, but over that objection, virtually nobody in America agrees with that. That you should at least talk with the parents, right? The type of things that are happening in school right now it's crazy how parents' rights are being trampled. Parents need to have absolute control over the way over the way their kids are being taught.
Sure thing. Wow. You're bringing a lot of things to light that I always hear. But when you bring it up in this way, the impact on the kids, whether it be external or internal forces, really makes one think. This one, at least, of wow, there's definitely a better way to get down to it. And I look at some of the non-traditional forms of schooling, for instance, like a University of Phoenix compared to a regular school. And there was a reason so many people went to that type of school. It allowed them to work and allowed them to apply work. And the teachers were from the people that are doing the work. I'd imagine that's a lot of the things that you're going to be seeing as well as you develop your school, is you're going to tie in these kids with people that are doing it, and they're going to teach them how to do the different things without the external noise that is so prevalent right now.
Yeah. And I saw that a lot in college. I got a great college education. I was happy with the college that I got. However, I remember sitting in a business class and somebody asked one of my business professors, I was a business major, what business experience she had. And she said, oh, well, 3 years ago, I took a sabbatical and I created a little jewelry business out of my house. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is who I'm going to learn business from. And that's a tragedy. That should never be allowed. Never be allowed. You're teaching business, but you've never been in business. That's just completely unacceptable. And when you look, I think it maybe is even more true at the college level, but a lot of college professors are only academics, and they don't have real experience. And that's the person that's going to be helping you to become successful in a business environment. I saw the same thing in law school. I had many great professors, and they taught a lot of great theory. But when I looked at it, very few of them had a real legal career. And so at the end of law school, and this is not just the law school I went to, but really any of them, you could ask any recent college law grad, you're helpless. I was licensed that I could, work on, protecting somebody's life in a criminal case. I could take on mega multi-million-dollar lawsuits. I was licensed to take those, and I wasn't even close to prepared. I had no business, none whatsoever, taking any kind of case like that. None. And I realized, like, dang, 3 years of law school, and I wasn't prepared. Nobody was, none of them. And so really, law school and I've talked to so many lawyers about this, and 100% of them agree. Law school should be a 1-year program and 2 years of apprenticeship. After 2 years of apprenticeship, then you're actually valuable. Yeah. But until you've had a couple of years of just following somebody through the system, you're helpless.
Yeah. It's just the same thing with medical, right? I don't want an academic medical person working on me. I want someone that went through that residency.
Yeah, absolutely. The medical field and veterinarians get this way better. It's a much more practical education, but a legal education is so impractical. It's all theory.
Oh, well, what's kind of sad is I went a while back to get my master's, and I called it death by PowerPoint. It's almost like they don't really have the real world application. So you end up with these just PowerPoints that, I can do this from home. Just give me the PowerPoint and let me study that. So even at the college level, it was a disappointment on so many ways, and then in the way that even college education has evolved, now you've got the anxiety. I can't even imagine being a young kid going like, am I going to go $100,000 in debt? Yeah. To go get a college education that gives me no real world application.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And there's plenty of it. You look at realistically college majors, and only about half of them really line up with a career. Mm-hmm. About half of them, there's not really a career there, or a very small one, or your career is, well, teach more people how to do what you just learned, be a history professor. What's the career? Well, teach history. That's all there is.
Well, Jim, this has been a fascinating discussion, just because the kids that I have in school still, I want the best for them. And I'm sure every one of the listeners out there would want the best too. And just to know that there is this type of option out there is pretty unique, just because it will. You're getting me thinking I need to spend my time with my boys going on the Excel spreadsheet to see what they could do with their lemonade stand or any of that stuff. And I can't believe I've never done that before. Take a spreadsheet, that maybe because I had the assumption it's too complex. And in reality, when you're talking about your 11-year-old and your 14-year-old that could probably outmaneuver me in any Excel spreadsheet, and they're already applying that, big deal. The application is huge, and you can't thank you enough for that.
Yeah, it's amazing, like really amazing what kids can do if they're given the latitude. Yeah. But they're just forced into so specific of a step-by-step factory education for so long that by the time we let them out into the world, that joy of learning and creativity and excitement and just desire to better themselves is dead. Like once it's fully dead, then we'll let you go into a career, but got to kill that creativity first. Once it's done, it's wild.
It's just mostly dead.
Yeah, that's right. Mostly dead. Time for a double major, buddy.
Well, I would hope that as you get these things going, that we can return back to this and then revisit everything that's going on. I think it'd be a fantastic little segue into what's next and the things that you're going to be doing and influencing down the road here. You've been an influence to me. And again, I cannot thank you enough.
Oh, thanks for saying that. I love what I do.